All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. Super glad to have you all here. I'm actually curious who's with us today. So feel free to share, where you're tuning in from, what your role and company is in the chat. I want to see who's here. Hello. Hi, Armin. Cecilia. Okay, cool. Well, I'm super excited to dive into the conversation here today. So just to introduce myself, I'm Andrea Assistito, our Customer Success Associate Team Manager here at TalentPop and our moderator for today's CXplained panel, the CX-led growth stack, turning reviews, loyalty, affiliates, and support into one growth engine. We do host conversations just like this every single month for CXplained. If you don't know, CXplained is our community where CX leaders and operators can share, what's exactly happening within their team so that we can all learn from real on-the-ground experience. But today, we are going to be talking about how the best e-commerce brands are turning CX into a growth channel. So support isn't just about solving tickets anymore. Every customer interaction can lead into a repeat purchase, a review, a referral, or a long-term relationship. So we'll break down how all of these things that I mentioned, support, reviews, loyalty, and affiliates can all work together without overcomplicating your setup. So if you're ready to turn satisfied customers into your most valuable growth channel, please drop a lightning bolt in the chat. All right. And then while those are coming in, starting to see them come in, thank you guys. I will be sharing a slide on this screen here. We do have a partner giveaway lined up, a free CX or AI audit for today's attendees. While you guys are scanning that QR code, you can enter the giveaway. And I'll keep this slide visible here while we introduce all of our panelists. But yeah, Sarah, do you want to kick us off with intros?
Yeah, of course. As you said, I'm Sarah. I'm the agency partnership manager here at Okendo. I'm based in New York for anyone that's in New York in the chat. Okendo is a customer marketing platform. So we have five consolidated products, reviews, loyalty, quizzes, referrals, and surveys that all work in tandem for Shopify brands, Shopify and Shopify Plus brands.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. Let's pass it off to Jared.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for making the time for today. Like I said, I'm Jared. I'm with Social Snowball. Been here for 3 years and then just been in the creator and affiliate space for a long time now. So excited to talk with everyone about all things referrals and affiliates.
Cool. My girl Ash.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley, but my nickname is Ash. I am the Senior Customer Success Manager here at TalentPop, and I'm currently based out of Austin, Texas. So if anyone's in the chat, is in the area, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I would love to meet you.
Thanks, Ash. And then last but not least, Michael.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks first and foremost for to the Talent Pop team for setting this up and inviting all of us. My name is Michael. I'm Director of Partnerships here at Sienna AI. Hey, what's up? Getting some love in the chat. What's up, guys? Sienna is an AI native operating system for e-commerce brands that powers the customer experience across the entire customer lifecycle. Thrilled to be here. Thanks again to the Talent Pop team and excited to get started.
Perfect. Thank you all for the intros there. We have a really great group here, every layer of the growth stack covered. So in this conversation, we'll unpack how all of these different aspects connect together and how brands can start seeing CX as more of a strategic system that compounds and not just a cost center that resolves. So during the conversation, for everyone watching, feel free to drop any questions in the chat or Q&A, and we will thread them into the conversation as we go. But just to get started, I do want to begin where every brand's growth story actually begins, which is the customer experience itself. So I do want to hear from all of you. Where do you see the biggest missed opportunity when brands operate, in a way where they are still treating CX as a cost center, something to manage efficiently rather than grow from? And what shifts when they start treating every customer interaction as a potential growth moment instead? Whoever wants to start.
I can jump in. Um, so I think the biggest missed opportunity is treating CX as the end of the journey rather than part of the business growth. So, once a ticket is closed or a purchase is delivered, the moment is often considered done, even though that's where some of the most valuable signals live. So when you start treating those moments as signals instead of check boxes, everything shifts. CX stops being about damage control and starts informing retention, product, and how customers talk about you to other people. And the brands that grow from their customer relationships aren't really doing anything radically different. They're just actually listening at the moments that matter.
Yeah.
100% agree. And I'll add to that, Sarah. I think this is something we also constantly see across the 750 brands that we support when CX is purely reactive, only focusing on ticket resolution and kind of considering it closed, thinking about speed and just focusing on nothing else. But when brands are doing that, they're leaving a lot on the table with those interactions. Our agents are trained not just to resolve, but also to upsell, cross-sell, prevent churn with that whole interaction. So the brands that see the biggest lift are the ones where CX and growth aren't separate conversations. They're using every interaction as an opportunity to deepen those relationships. And that doesn't stop, once the purchase is fulfilled, just like how you mentioned, you got to continue and carry that relationship post-purchase as well.
Michael, Jared, any thoughts?
Yeah, I can jump in here. I think the biggest missed opportunity, and I suppose like the biggest opportunity for brands right now, historically, it's been really hard for brands to capture. I think it was Sarah that mentioned like the signal, the signal through the noise, capturing like, uh, what customers are saying at scale, what your customers as a brand are saying at scale, and like drawing out the signal from those conversations that it can actually impact the business positively, right? So this is voice of the customer, right? And a lot of brands, as I said, have been challenged by this historically. It's really hard to sort of put all the pieces together at scale if you don't have the technology to do it. And now with AI, of course, that's a lot easier to do. And a lot of the signal that brands that are using, for example, Sienna or platforms similar to ours, they're finding like intelligence, they're finding signal, they're finding the voice of the customer inside of all these conversations, and they're able to sort of pull it out and inform other parts of the business. So, and this has become like a huge breakthrough for a lot of brands. So I'll give you one example. One of the brands that uses Sienna recently told us that they had an issue with one of their products, and for historically, if they had an issue with the product, they would go to the product team and bang on the door and say like, "Hey, we've got an issue with the product," and of course, the product team would ignore them because there wasn't enough data to actually support the case to make an improvement in the product. Now they have all of that data. They can point to the data inside of CNN and say, these are the conversations that are happening around this issue. These are the number of conversations. This is the trend line that is showing across all of our customer support. And this is what it means for our customers. Like this is the voice, this is what they're saying. So you can take that in a report and actually share it cross-functionally. That's where you're actually, this is where you're really able to move the needle for the business. Imagine how much revenue that business would be leaving on the table if they hadn't actually made that improvement in the product, thanks to the customer support team. These are big moments in sort of shaping the brand and the success of the business. And it's only now possible with AI. You can really sort of find that signal, capture that signal, and then share it cross-functionally. And it's a really high leverage moments that are making a big impact with the brands that we help.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Love it. Really agree with what Michael said. I think leveraging AI to do a lot of this at scale is going to make, especially for high volume or high scale brands, going to make a lot more of understanding what your customers are talking about tangible or usable instead of just having information that's collected across hundreds or thousands of different tickets. Now you have general trends and general real business impacts that you can form decisions around. But outside of just doing this at scale, I think a good lever and something that I've seen from my own personal experience, both as a consumer and then also someone that works with brands. Anytime that you go through, I think of like an in-person experience when you're working with someone. If you're at like a department store, if you're buying essentially anything, if you're actually working with someone to help you with the purchase, or you're talking to someone in the store, a lot of times there's an opportunity to learn more about the brand. You have a connection that's made. You think of like some of my own personal favorite purchases. There's a story about the founder or the person that made the product or that, put the watch together, made the shirt, whatever it is. Those experiences are really impactful. And you can use this relationship from CX. Yes, there's a ticket resolution component that's never going to change. There's also an experience to tap in with the relationship that you have with the consumer, with the customer, and help build that brand loyalty and that connection to the brand, which I think can be really impactful. And once you have that relationship established, then everything else that you want to do in terms of getting a review, getting them to go through and make content on social, get them to come back and purchase or make a referral, all of those become a lot more doable once you have that established relationship with someone. And CX is a really, really good way to do that, where you have a chance to talk directly to a consumer, whether it's for a good purchase, like they have a simple question, or if you're resolving an issue. They had both can be really good levers for all of this.
Amazing. Thank you all so much. All really well said. Definitely agreed. The, customer experience is really a moment for customers to learn more about us as a brand, and for us to learn more about like them and their relationship, what they have with us. But yeah, really want to dig into how each of you respectively are building that infrastructure to make that system possible. And I do want to start with Sarah, because reviews and loyalty are often the first place that brands can turn a great support moment into something that compounds. So Okendo unifies reviews, loyalty, referrals, quizzes, and surveys all into one platform, which is a fundamentally different model than treating each as a separate tool. When a brand has all of that connected, what does the customer journey actually look like from first purchase to superfan, and where do most brands break that cycle before it even starts?
Yeah, of course. So I actually want to walk y'all through like a hypothetical scenario. So like let's say I'm scrolling and I see a brand, for example, say let's say it's Road because they're a client of ours, and they're running like a giveaway through like a paid social ad campaign. And so that pulls me in. I enter the campaign through a survey. So now the brand has my email, they have some more personal information. They send me an email and they know what I actually care about, which drives me to the site where I'm led to take an on-site quiz. It helps create recommended products. And when I land on that recommendation page, I'm seeing real reviews, which is going to help me decide whether to purchase or not because I'm getting real social proof within those personalized product recommendations. And that converts me into a new customer. And everything just feels effortless because it's all working in tandem with one another and this is like seamless experience together. And then after I buy, I get another email trigger that I'm invited to their loyalty program. I am enjoying their product. I'm earning points, I'm feeling rewarded, I'm staying engaged, and it compounds because I then refer a friend and I leave a review. I share my experience. These are all actions that I earn points for, and now I'm not just a customer, I turn into a super fan that's actively helping that brand grow. But a lot of these brands are breaking that cycle right at the start. The customers, they're making a purchase, they're getting a generic confirmation email, maybe not even at the right time. The moment passes, and the reason it breaks is because the tools are not connected together, and that momentum never really builds. So I'd say the difference between a one-time transaction, um, I say that is the difference between like having a one-time transaction and building and making those steps, and turning your customers into super fans.
And I just want to bounce off of that, Sarah, because I love that example you share. Because one, from the consumer end, like when I get emails like that, just one, it's like catered to my interest, and then I start getting points. One, I'm a sucker for points. Like I have over 8,000 with Sephora. Don't judge. But I love having all the points. So when I have that type of relationship with brands, it just wants me to stay loyal to them. So I love that that caters to it and also like including the reviews as well. Just because, you might have that consumer that is a little bit more skeptical because it's like, oh, I don't know if anyone likes this yet. But when you see it's like 1,000 reviews and they're all your positive, that helps encourage and move the needle for that customer to make the purchase. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And that also maps closely to what we see operationally too. When a customer has a great support interaction, the timing of a review request is perfect, but most brands aren't connecting those two moments. So like our agents can flag resolve tickets or high satisfaction interactions as those optimal opportunities for review prompts. And it's a small workflow, but that can change and make a really meaningful impact as well in terms of review volume.
Yeah, totally agree there.
All right. The next question I have is for Jared. So, Social Snowball's core idea is that the moment a customer makes a purchase, they can automatically become a brand affiliate, no manual onboarding required. So, in practice, what does that post-purchase window look like when it's set up really well? And what's the biggest mistake that brands make in that moment that kills momentum before it even starts?
Yeah, I'll answer those in kind of reverse
Sure.
order. I think for any of these programs, and both for referrals and affiliate, but also for any of these components that we're talking about for today, I think the biggest mistake people make is they make it just too hard for customers to go through and actually participate in leaving reviews or sharing content or earning points or making a referral, whatever the action is. If there's too much friction, people just don't do these things. And everything on our sites, everything that we go through and optimize is for conversion. The whole purpose is you get people to your site through ads or through organic traffic or through word of mouth or however people get to your site, and then everything pushes them to go through and convert. The actions for signing up for a loyalty program or a referral program or any of these other components, that's not the focus of the website, which is totally fine. That's the expectation, is to focus on conversion. And so the biggest mistake is any of these actions that people are taking after purchase become too hard. There's too many steps that are required. And so in practice, the more of this that you can automate, whether it's through a system like Social Snowball that just immediately does it, or through any other flow that you have set up with your post-purchase retention flows or any other experience that your customers are going to interact with, that's where these programs like really or start to perform really, really well. Now, when it's set up well, what it ends up looking like, do you know, are we able to share our screens? I think we
I'll
are.
go ahead and try.
This is an example. Let me know if you can see it.
Yeah, I
How
can
about you?
see Divi.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of ways you can do this in practice. This is an example of a post-purchase email. It's a pretty standard section. And what they've done is they've added a section. It's kind of cheeky, but it just talks about a referral program. And you can frame this, it can be for an affiliate program, it can be more focused on referral. However you want to phrase it or however you want to position it based on your brand, your product, your positioning, just kind of your own brand voice and tone. There's a lot of ways you can structure this, but the idea is that they're enrolled, they're presented with an offer. If they want to do this, they're just set up and good to go. They don't have to log in, they don't have to make an account, they don't have to set up a profile, they don't have to leave an email flow and go to your site and go through a whole separate onboarding flow and then get another email or put their friend's email in. Like all of those friction points are removed. And then this link or this code that was generated for that customer, this becomes a variable that's attached to any of your ESPs, like a Klaviyo profile for that customer. So when you're working on support tickets, if they have questions later and you have a good resolution and you want to send them their link to refer a friend, your CX team might have access to that. If you want to add this to any other touch point on a subscription upsell flow, on after they leave a review, if you wanted to send them a message saying, hey, thanks for the review. If you want to refer a friend, here's a link. Any touch point that you have with your customer, you can include this link as a simple reminder, or you can make a little block like this to send out. And the more touch points that you have with the customer that talk about this, the better it performs. And the ones that do this absolutely the best have it on pretty much every post-purchase touch point that's not explicitly asking for a sale, which a lot of them will, upsells and cross sells and things like that. But if you have any actions that are non-purchase related, it's a really good option to go through and add these touch points. And that's where we see them perform, I'd say by far the best for many of these different setups.
Awesome.
I'll
Thanks,
jump
Jared.
in.
Any other thoughts?
I was going to share to that point, Jared, like touching on post-purchase and how emotions are also like heavily tied to that. Like if it's a first-time customer, and that whole experience is also going to bank on how they determine if they're going to continue to be a loyal purchasing customer after that. So I think we can also learn a lot from that from a CX angle, just because it's an emotional investment. So essentially, like when support interactions can reinforce that feeling, that's great. If it's obviously a positive or deflated, maybe they didn't have the best experience. Maybe fulfillment was just not having the best day, and we're trying to turn that experience around. So, still leveraging support to ensure that even if all things don't go well, we're still treating this first interaction and post purchase with everything we have to make sure whatever emotions are tied to it will have a good outcome at the end. And so I think at that point too, leveraging, we have brand concierge specialists here at TalentPop. And so they're specifically trained to do this type of work for that post-purchase window, but they also can do proactive outreach, provide order updates, and also upselling. And this helps with that customer journey. And when you have that offering that you guys do have with Social Snowball, when it comes to a simple affiliate link and not making someone create a whole account, but also encouraging other people to make a purchase, that's also like super ideal too. So when that's happening all at the same time, that's like the perfect storm for an affiliate invite, and the brand experience like really feels cohesive instead of just transactional one-time purchase.
Exactly. That cohesion is really
Hmm.
important. It flows super well. And their conversion of people actually making referrals is that much
Yeah.
higher. If you continue to remove those friction points, it works really well.
Yeah, that's what we want to see. We want the loyalty, those longtime customers, not just one and done.
Yeah.
Well, love it. Do you want to remind everyone watching too, if there's any questions? I did see a few come in. Um, just feel free to drop those in and we'll get them answered. I'll move on to Michael. So at Sienna, you guys work with a lot of e-commerce brands, which means you have a unique view of how AI is actually being used in CX, not in theory, but in practice. And you touched on that a little bit, but what are you seeing from the brands that are getting the most out of automation? Are there patterns in how they're connecting AI handled interactions to downstream outcome like reviews, repeat purchases, or loyalty, and what separates them from brands that are using AI just to deflect tickets?
Yeah. So what separates, it's interesting. Like it's almost like you have two totally different businesses. It's the same tech, but like a completely different P&L. It's like two completely different stories. So the brands that are winning with AI have really stopped treating AI as like a ticket deflection tool. Deflection is really like a cost metric. So it's like how many tickets did I keep away from a human? The brands that are really getting the leverage here have completely flipped that. So they're treating every AI interaction as a touch point that can move a downstream number. So think of think of these downstream numbers as like reviews or a second order, or a second purchase that as we've been talking about, or a larger subscription. So it's like how can each interaction move the needle downstream? So it's like you've completely it's not about deflecting, but rather like encouraging touch points with the customer at scale so you can move a downstream number. And again, there are like two different stories here. There are the ones that are treating it as a deflection metric. AI is like a deflection tool, and then the ones that are really treating it as like a new way of engaging customers at scale. And there's also a part that sometimes surprises people. So at Sienna, we see brands automating like 80, even 90% in some cases of their support volume. And they're actually sometimes seeing higher CSAT than the brands that are automating less. So more automation with a higher CSAT. So I'll give you an example. One of our enterprise brands is at almost 90% automation. They score above our customers, like our average across all of our customers on CX quality. So what that really tells us is that automation isn't coming at the cost of experience. Indeed, actually, it's improving the experience for some brands that are doing it well. They're doing it the way that I described earlier, where they're flipping it on its head. They're not looking at it as like simple deflection, but rather like a way to manage conversations at scale and move those downstream numbers. So again, so sort of to summarize, the brands that are doing it well are wiring their AI into revenue moments. So order history, loyalty tier, subscription status, every interaction can trigger the next best action. So for example, if you ask for a review after a great resolution, so that's like a moment. Or if the subscriber is at risk, that's another moment. Nudge the replenishment. These are these moments that you can, these are sort of moments that if you use AI properly, this will like drive meaningful results downstream in the numbers that matter. Yeah, so the deflection crowd is sort of like crowd A, and they're like, how do I touch the customer less? Right? They're like, we need to like deflect tickets and just like touch the customer less. And the growing brands are the ones that they're the ones that are asking themselves, how do I make every touch more impactful and count more and measure the outcome downstream for things like reviews and second orders, repeat purchases, and subscriptions.
Yeah, Michael, that's what we see too here on our end as well at TalentPop. Just your point about the big difference when a company uses AI as strictly deflection. We also see it on our end
Yeah.
as well. And, To that point, it's not the most ideal look. We also encourage our clients to have their agents also, we want to have those interactions feel like white glove service and not just
Totally.
agents being overwhelmed because deflection, it's literally the same when agents are overwhelmed and using AI as deflection. It's just kind of a chaotic mess.
Yep.
So when that's volume coming through, really nothing is being triaged at that point.
Hmm.
And so the ones that really see the lift, to your point, is when it's handling like the repeatable stuff and servicing context for everything else, things that might be self-service, like order status or simple FAQs that are available, but someone may not have the time to go look through the entire page. AI is right there to help support quick answers, and they can make the necessary decisions they need to with regarding their specific order or placing a potential new one. But when someone does need help and they want that human touch, it's great to have AI to be able to hand that off to an agent to give them that special interaction to also help potentially, some brand loyalty. Um, Once again, because all things go well. So yeah, that's what we see on our end too. When a ticket does reach a human, the agent already knows what they're, referencing, who they're talking to, and exactly what that moment calls for.
Hmm.
Great addition there, Ash. We do have some questions. Let me scroll back up. There's a lot coming in the chat here. This is for anyone here. They would love to hear a little bit more about social media management when it comes to customer inquiries via DMs, Reddits, comments, and etc. Any takes on that?
I can jump in. I mean, like if it is one of the channels that you want to support using AI, that is, it's possible to answer your question. Yeah, I mean, at Sienna, we support all social channels, including DMs, as with AI, and of course, the benefit there is that, with Sienna has access, of course, to everything about that customer and everything about the entire catalog of products. So, if a product is well reviewed, for example, and that customer has come back, maybe they bought a pair of shorts for a marathon last month and they're coming to buy the matching pair, the matching shirt. Sienna has access to all that context, that really rich context about that customer's history with the brand, and then any reviews that are relevant to that experience. So if that customer is coming in a DM on, after a promotion, for example, and they're DMing the brand, you want to be able to respond to that customer in like real time on social. You need to be able to answer very quickly on social. It's like a very dynamic channel. It's less forgiving than email, for example, where there's might be some like lag in between. Like if you're on social, like you're scrolling, you're ready to purchase in some cases, and you need to have a solution in place that allows you to like handle all of that engagement that's happening on social at scale while also like filtering out all the noise, because there is also a lot of noise on social. So you need to have a solution that allows you to sort of manage all of your social DMs, comments, all of that at scale with a context layer that allows you as a brand to have like, a one-to-one sort of personalized conversation. And then of course, like be able to actually drive that customer to a purchase if required.
And I think also to that point too, also having someone be readily available to also step
Totally.
in case that moment calls for someone to give like personal, recommendations. Like I've occasionally DM'd a brand here or there, and I'm wanting to have a quick kiki with them. I want
Yeah.
them to tell me like, hey, here's what we have coming up. If I'm interested, I'm like, hey, what do we have? I do want a quicker response, but I also want to feel like I'm talking to someone too, and that varies depending on what type of DM you might see come in. So it
Mhm.
kind of varies, but having both options, I think, is really, really helpful. And we have a question here from Armin as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, cool. So for social snowball, okay, everybody. Question for all of you guys. On average and in best case situations, what percent of revenue can be attributed as a result of each of your respective tools or services? Maybe we'll pause there. How much revenue are brands leaving on the table by not including your apps, tools, and your tech/service stack? This total number should reflect the percentage of revenue that a great CX function can be supporting.
I'll chime in first. It's really hard to predict this number, especially with affiliate. There's a lot of factors that will go into how much revenue is being generated from affiliate. Like, I've worked with brands that this is by far their biggest revenue channel, where they're largely in restricted areas where you can't do a lot of traditional advertising. The cannabis space is a huge proponent of that. Like they're just very limited in what they can do for paid acquisition. So this becomes a huge driver for it. There's also brands we work with that this is a very small relative percentage, and they have it as a channel for customers just to have an easy referral experience. So it can be as small as like a marginal amount all the way up to the biggest revenue driver that you're doing, and it depends a little bit on how many people are involved in this program, how many active affiliates or customers that are referring, the size of people that are making referrals or making content talking about brands. It's a lot of layers that go into it. But our benchmark, the gold standard that we shoot for, is at least 3% of new customer revenue coming from direct word of mouth from customers. Specifically, that's the gold standard that we shoot for. Yeah, bit of a long answer, but that's what we shoot for is 3% of new customer revenue.
I can jump in on top of that. So there are a couple ways that we support driving revenue and sort of transforming this like cost center into a profit center. The first is like sort of the obvious one, and that's that a shopping agent can support the customer during their buying journey and answering questions about like what's in stock, like what's most suitable for their preference. Like it's like a concierge on site, and whether that's questions coming over email or live chat or SMS or social, that's sort of like table stakes now. Right. So like a shopping agent is really table stakes. There are other solutions outside of Sienna that offer shopping agent sort of concierge-like experiences. Where Sienna, like where we're really making an impact in the business is how I described it earlier. To answer your question, Armin, and that's like surfacing insights that are actually really relevant for other parts of the business. So, for example, like developing entirely new SKUs. So if you ask this client of ours, like, can you attach a number to that insight that Sienna produced for you that encouraged the product team to develop an entirely new SKU? Like that new SKU could represent 20 or 30% of revenue for 2026, right? Because this is a SKU that their customers have been demanding. And that insight was only available through that like the data that was available in aggregate through Sienna Intelligence. So this is like an intelligence layer that sort of persists across all conversations, and it allows for the brands to surface those insights that again are relevant cross-functionally and like really driving the business forward. Again, like introducing new bundle offerings, improving the site experience, developing entirely new SKUs. Like these are some of the things that some of our clients have been able to bring to the business using AI and using Sienna in particular.
And to add to that too, in agreement with Jared and Michael, percentage would vary depending on the specific brand. But I think to that point, roughly almost every brand, there's some percentage that could be left on the table if they're not leveraging a nice tech stack and having the right team members in place. So, for example, I have a client that they decided to bring on a brand concierge not even a year ago, like late last summer. And they decided to have this person focus on re-engaging some of their customers that weren't either using a subscription model, maybe they weren't as active, and they were just kind of like, in the background in terms of the loyalty level of customers. And so they decided to focus their brand concierge to re-engage those customers that maybe have fallen to that group of like the forgotten or maybe like one-time purchasers and really tap into that. And what they saw by putting in special campaigns to re-engage a customer that hasn't interacted with anything in like 90 days or even 120 days, they were able to generate six figures of in terms of revenue just because they had this person engage in those campaigns. And so I think it's really important to just leverage all the tools that you can and also have the touch points be meaningful as well. You can have AI take the simple pieces as well and take that workload off of your agents, But, also too, they can also support that as well. I mean, on the customer side as well, we've all been a customer at some point with our brands, and we might reach out every now and then with a question, or maybe we had an issue with a package, Q4, that's the best time of the year for that, right? And so we might have had a longer email thread or chat conversation with someone on the other side, but it's also refreshing when you can come back and talk to that same person. You kind of have a relationship with them as well. So having all these options, I think, is just going to help in terms of the revenue percentage. But for specifics, at least on TalentPop side, we could do an audit to help determine, depending on what channels you're using, and look closer in terms of like numbers and be able to give that to your specific brand who asked the question. So yeah.
I'm gonna pop in real quick too. Piggybacking, like everyone has said, the numbers do definitely vary, and we do a similar thing where if we have like your exact numbers, can run audits to get more precise with it. But just kind of reiterating how and why everything is so important to have your tech stack consolidated and the impact that it makes. Like one, through the conversion, like having the social proof of those reviews is going to lift that purchase confidence at the moment that they're making a decision, and then retaining those customers through those loyalty programs. Um, like I said, turning those one-time buyers into repeat customers is always going to be cheaper than acquiring new ones. Referrals is also where your happiest customers, your ones leaving you five-star reviews, are going to be your lowest cost acquisition channel, because you are literally turning to people that are already your super fans, and then creating that personalization layer, that quiz, collecting more of that zero party data, is going to help increase your average order value as well, by showing the right product to the right person. So those are kind of the 5 different ways that the products all work together.
Thanks, you guys. I see another question that just popped up here. Would love to hear an example of a truly innovative referral strategy. I've never worked with a brand that really cracked this as a meaningful revenue driver. Personally, I only refer friends to things that genuinely changed my life, like a therapist or a dog trainer. How do you reframe crop dusting referral links into something people actually want to share without getting shamed out of the group chat?
I can chime in. I think it depends on what the product is, and there's different approaches depending on what it is. If it's something like a supplement or something that's consumable, super easy to make a simple referral saying, hey, this is the new protein powder that I take, or this is the new, energy bar that I like to use, or whatever it is. Something like that can be very simple, especially with brands that have done really well on TikTok Shop. If you think of like highly viral, like very low cost AOV products, being more transactional actually has worked pretty well. Saying, hey, you could make cash per sharing with his friends, give them a discount on these sort of products. That can work, especially for younger consumer bases. If you're selling to a younger target audience, that can work well. Anything that there's a native trust built around, like brands with for babies or for new families, toddlers, infants, things like that, or pet brands. Word of mouth referral is likely already a strong channel that you have. And so just the referral angle is more of just encouraging people to do it, or making it accessible. It's not as much of a transactional push. And the last one, in terms of like a real life example, something that's been really impactful, the supplement space has probably been the most productive with this, at least in my experience, where people talk about an actual experience, whether it's a weight loss or a muscle builder or a anti-anxiety, whatever the supplement that they're taking is helping with. And the margins are good enough on the products. You can be pretty aggressive in terms of what you offer for a referral incentive. I've seen all the way up to 100% referral incentives for brands that are either completely subscription based or have very high paid acquisition costs. This can turn into a really cost effective, or at least a more profitable acquisition channel, while being also a very attractive offer for people to make referrals. But you can be really flexible. You can structure these offers however you want. It really just depends on what your acquisition costs are and how much wiggle room you have, or what you would like to pay to acquire a customer is really how you can frame these programs.
Awesome. Thanks, Jared. Hope that answered your question, Greg. I do have another question for Ash specifically, but did anyone else want to add on to Greg's question? Good. Okay. All right. For Ash, just going back to what you were talking about with brand concierge, can you elaborate a little bit more on that role?
Yeah, so I think having a brand concierge is great because they can upsell, cross-sell, and do churn prevention. And we're all kind of touching on one, having those interactions become more meaningful, but also make that customer journey a bit longer. That's why we want to have these brand concierge. And we don't want our team members just to be focused on product catalog. We want to focus on where are we going to go from here. We want to define the relationship with our customers before they have the chance to even question, what are we? And so at TalentPop, we build onboarding around a brand's actual historical tickets, their top customer questions, their retention goals, but also where do they want to go from here in these upcoming quarters. From there, agents are able to learn and recognize the moments that matter, and returning customers who mention, they might be considering canceling, or maybe their first time buyer, or someone who's just generally excited for their order. That's why it's good to have one, either brand concierge to really have that level white glove service, but also help prevent churn, or just having a really nicely skilled agent to ensure that those interactions are great. And so all these moments are opportunities where CX can become growth rather than just simply transactional.
Thanks, Ash. Cool. Thanks you guys for all the questions. Keep them coming. I do want to stick with you, Ash, for this next question. So TalentPop agents are trained in upselling, cross-selling, and churn prevention. So CX can become a revenue driver, not just a support function. When you're onboarding agents for a brand, how do you shift the mindset from resolve the ticket to grow the relationship? And what does that training exactly look like?
Yeah, so some of it kind of goes back to what I just highlighted. When you have agents that simply focus on just resolving a ticket and focusing on a high resolution and closing that out, they're not thinking about one, having that interaction be more meaningful and just like check off the box and keep it pushing. So, one, for our agents, what we focus on their training is making sure they understand not just essentially like, hey, just use this macro and keep it going, but also we want to match the brand tone. Or maybe if the brand tone hasn't been great and they're coming to Town Pop to help fix it and use our expertise as well. Okay, how do we change it to improve? Maybe we had what we can do also too, what I've done for clients is when they join, they might not have had the best reviews or CSATs that have come through, and they're trying to turn that around because maybe they're focused on just transactional interactions and now they're trying to increase that customer journey and having loyalty. And so also doing an analysis during that onboarding period as well has been something helpful for some of my clients because we've taken those detractors that have come through and say, okay, what policies are in place that maybe these customers are not liking and that's why they're not staying, or maybe it's the macro tone that you guys have been using. How do we change that so customers want to continue engaging but also they like the brand in general? So all these things we use as tools to also train the agents so they can match that, because your customer experience team is kind of like your first line of defense and the first line to experience a brand. Marketing is also there too, but when someone's directly reaching out, everyone in the marketing team is going to be chit-chatting with everyone over email, but your customer experience team will. So we use as opportunities to train them focused on your brand, to help give those customers the best experience.
Thanks, Ash. Okay, this next question, want to go through it quickly so we can get to the rest of the questions before we're out of time. But this is a question for all of you. So we've been talking about reviews, affiliates, AI, and human support all as separate pieces. But the whole premise of today's conversation is that they are stronger together. So what does it actually look like when these systems are talking to each other? Can you give us a concrete example of the customer journey where the handoffs work seamlessly and what breaks when they don't?
I can jump in.
Thanks, Michael.
So Sienna listens to your human conversations, her own conversations. We have an integration into Okendo where we're also pulling in reviews data. So regardless of where the conversation is happening or what is happening along that customer journey, Sienna is capturing it in her memory And then that intelligence sort of persists across the customer journey. So now when you are shopping, you have a question about a product, or you have a post-purchase question about your experience, Sienna is going to have access to all of that information to create a really compelling personal experience for you and you only, right? So it's like we're sort of the connective tissue. It's like this, it's sort of like this one brain, if you will. It's one brain that sort of has access to all of this different information about that customer. Um, and and she behaves and sort of responds accordingly. So yeah, that's the answer from Sienna's side. It's like, you want to have one brain, an orchestrator brain that has visibility into every part of your customer experience, whether it's a human conversation, an AI conversation, a review, or a purchase. And if you combine all of that information, you can deliver like a very hyper personalized experience at scale that's like super contextual and relevant. Yeah.
I think those are good points, Michael. I think from TalentPop's end, the connective tissue, if you will, is both like the agent or whatever automation is in place. So like, for example, like if you have an agent that is, working on a ticket, they can see if a customer just earned like a loyalty milestone, or maybe they used a referral for the recent purchase that I just made, or maybe there's a reference in that conversation as well. They can use that to help make it more personal, and it just makes the interaction feel less transactional than the typical like macro that might be used. And so we help brands configure that in their help desk to help surface those kinds of contexts so the agents aren't, working blind as well.
Jared, Sarah, any thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll give an example that's less about like the happy path, more about like what happens when something goes wrong. Because I think that's actually where, I think obviously merchants they like see the value of like the connected systems more clearly. So let's say, a customer orders, the product arrives damaged, and they reach out to support, and the ticket gets resolved, and the issue gets fixed. But here's where like most brands lose the plot. Like the customer is now in the same email queue as everyone else. So that day seven, like referral email is going out, the loyalty points expire, a reminder goes out, so the review request goes out, and nobody's flagged about what just happened. So in a connected system, that support interaction changes everything downstream. So the review request is going to get delayed, the referral prompt is going to get paused, and instead the customer gets a loyalty reward for the hassle. Something that says, that wasn't a great experience, but we value you anyway. And that's the type of moment that you can actually recover the relationship. And, if they respond to that positively, you now have a window, and that's when you can go in and ask for a review and also ask for a referral as well. So when your systems um, aren't talking, you're just executing a schedule really. And when they are, you're actually responding to a real human being.
So thanks, Sarah. Jared, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that was super, super well said.
Awesome. Thank you. Cool. Let's go back to you, Sarah. Love all the examples that have been shared so far, but I do want to get more tactical because the how is usually where brands are getting stuck. So, I'll start with you, Sarah, and then we'll go one round for everybody again. But Sarah, a resolved support ticket is arguably one of the best moments to request a review. The customer just had a positive interaction with us and the brand is top of mind for them. So how are Okendo brands activating that moment? And are there signals or triggers beyond ticket resolution that brands should be paying more attention to when it comes to that review timing?
Yeah, of course. So a resolved ticket is obviously a great trigger, but resolved on its own doesn't tell you how the customer actually felt. So the ticket is closed, but were they happy? Were they frustrated but dealt with? And that distinction definitely matters a lot. So the brands doing this really well aren't just firing off, a review request the second a ticket closes. They're layering in, I keep bringing up the theme of signals. So things like the satisfaction rating the customer gave after the interaction or the actual tone of what they wrote. And if someone just had a genuinely positive support experience, that's, like I mentioned before, a perfect moment to ask for a review. The brand is top of mind and the customer feels good. But if there's any friction in that interaction, that same moment is better used to capture feedback and make it right, and not to ask for a public review. So same trigger, different response depending on that signal. And then beyond the ticket resolution, there are other moments brands might be sleeping on, which is, a repeat purchase, hitting a loyalty milestone, as you mentioned, a product arriving after a long wait. Those are all high emotion moments where the customer has something to say, and it might most likely is going to be something positive. So the brands winning at this aren't just asking at the right time, but they're making sure they're reading the room first.
So thanks, Sarah. Yeah, we definitely see that with our agents as well. Like when a CSAT review comes in, when we're looking at the agent's performance, we're seeing like, okay, how did the agent do? They resolved the ticket, yes, but did the customer still feel unheard? So thank you for sharing all that. I think I spoke too soon. I don't think we have time to go another round for everyone. So I'm just going to skip to the question for you all here. I want to know just one underrated move from all of you, something most brands aren't doing yet that would meaningfully improve their CX, reviews, loyalty, and affiliate programs to work together. So just one each, whoever's ready.
Start listening to your data and making decisions around the data. And like AI is a very powerful tool, as if I know like a lot of you in the audience have already started using it, but applying AI to understand your customer at scale is very, very powerful. You can glean a lot of insights and make decisions better across your business when you start thinking with the data that is now easily available at your fingertips. And what I mean is like the conversation data more specifically, both human conversations, AI conversations. Yeah, your customers are talking to you and they're telling you things, and you should be listening.
I totally agree with you on that, Michael. I think also training the agents to recognize high value customer moments as well and acknowledge them in those interactions. And that's what you can do when you have reviews coming in and loyalty programs in place and affiliate programs. And that's a small behavior that can turn a simple interaction into a relationship moment. And it doesn't really cost anything extra just to be kind to customers in those moments. And that really also showcases too, especially during those tough seasons for a lot of brands with high volume, most being Q4, some being Q1, or if it's a summer brand that might be right about now. So also making sure not to let those interactions just be like, hey, let's just get it out and we'll handle the fire later. But make sure you also have enough team members in place to support that volume as well. Don't skip out on your front line, your customer support agents.
I'd say from Okendo, one underrated move is like maybe the moment a customer submits a 4 and 5 star review, to make sure you're sending them a referral prompt and sending that right then and not waiting on it, because the customer just took the time out of their day to say how much they loved your brand, and that's peak advocacy. So they're already warm and engaged, and most brands are just sending that thank you review email and moving on. So that's a crucial moment that could be wasted and turn them into a new customer.
And I'd piggyback on that. I'd say the one easy thing you can do is keep the momentum going. Anytime there's a positive action, a review, a good CX experience, someone's posted about you on social media, like any single action, just ask for a little bit more. It doesn't have to be a purchase, doesn't have to be a sale, just one little extra action. And if you can do it with AI and you can scale it across all of your experiences, even better. And it makes a huge impact every time you can ask just for a little bit more from people that are already doing something for you.
So thank you guys. Well, I think that is all the time we have for today. I know there was a couple questions that came in the chat. Please join that CXplained community that Daria dropped the link for, and we'll make sure to get you guys connected to all these wonderful people here as well if you have further questions for them. But yeah, just thank you, Ash, Sarah, Jared, Michael, for all your time today and everyone who joined and watched in. I think what today really showed us is that brands winning on CX aren't doing 5 separate things. They're, doing all these things as one full system. So they're treating every interaction as a moment in a longer relationship. Reviews, loyalty, affiliates, and human support aren't just parallel programs, they're a full system. And when that's all connected, every customer's satisfaction becomes a growth channel. So that is the main shift that's worth making here. Again, if you would like a free CX or AI audit to benchmark your CX against the 750 plus brands that we support here at TalentPop and get a chance to win in our partner giveaway, scan that QR code and look out for the follow-up email. We will include the replay of this conversation. But wishing you guys all the best with your CX operations. And yeah, thanks for being here, everyone.
Thanks, TalentPop, for putting this together.
Thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.